And the green flag waves at the back, so we are about to get racing underway this time. The 5-second board has been shown. 45 minutes is underway as the lights go out and the Porsche goes nowhere. The Brian Richardson Porsche has not got away, and so far we've done okay. That's quite remarkable. Everybody missed Brian Richardson's Porsche, and it's John LaMarta that lead through Paddock Hill Bend. It is Stuart Donovan in second. It's Sam McKee who's got up into third position from 6th on the grid in his BMW 3 Series, but he's under threat because that's a Golf going down the inside there, side by side as they come down the hill, and that car's making good progress. Just trying to work out which one it is.
It'll be the Alex and Daniel Reed Volkswagen Golf that's there. I think that will be up into third position, and we've now got the Semprini racing car of Jeremy Evans through into fourth place, and almost into the back of the Toyota Celica there of Stuart Donovan. He was so late on the brakes heading in towards Surtees that the Honda almost tagged the tail end of the Toyota. It got rather close and marginal, but they're all safely through and starting to propel themselves down Pilgrim's Drop for the first time up towards Hawthorns, with John LaMaster starting to escape the grasp of those behind. It's the Golf that sits there in second place, so it will be the Alex and Daniel Reed Volkswagen Golf, the EST performance car, first of two cars that they've got in this field. They've also got Seat Leon out that has picked up second place, but I think largely everybody is safely through the first lap, and thank goodness Stuart Donovan is as well. Thank goodness Brian Richardson is as well, because that must be an absolute sickening feeling when you're so far up the grid and you stall and you're just hoping and praying, aren't you?
Yes, I think we were as well at that point, Mark, because it was getting very busy, but everybody did a fantastic job to avoid that Porsche Boxster. Quite a low slung car, not the easiest car to see when you've got lots of cars in front of you. For second place, Stuart Donovan dives but up the inside to get that position back in towards clearways, but out of the corner. That's the Golf, isn't it? The Reeds are powering back through into second place. That's a great battle behind John LaMaster. Into Paddock Hill Bend, Stuart Donovan wants to get back through. He's on the inside line, and he just about is given enough room to make that work. So Stuart Donovan back into second place ahead of the car shared between Adam and Daniel Reed. They go up towards Druid, and joining in that battle is car number 37, the Jeremy Evans driven Honda Civic. So Jeremy Evans is there in that battle as well. Then there is a bit of a gap back to the next car, which is the Freddie Hewitt Mini, I think, that's there in 5th position.
Yeah, and then we got the two very dark blue BMW 3 Series together, which is Sam McKee, who was under enormous pressure from the number 41 car that sits behind him, which is the car that Michael Rawling shares with David Jakczewski. So those two cars absolutely together, and for the pairing of Michael Rawlings and David Zakchevsky, remember they have claimed 2 race wins so far this year. They won at Cadwell Park on the full circuit, they won at Anglesey on the coastal circuit, but John LaMaster is leading here today. He has managed to open up after just 1 lap of racing. He is 1 3/4 seconds to the good, so it's been a brilliant start from John LaMaster at the wheel of the Lotus, and the amount of daylight, Josh, is just stretching ever more between himself and the chasing pack.
Yeah, that's right. That Class A car getting away with a very experienced driver at the wheel, John LaMaster. And I think he was the Lotus Lease champion, wasn't he, at one point, John LaMaster? So he was using all those years of experience to pull away from the pack. That pack, though, in a good battle for second position on that opening lap or so of the race. And now Stuart Donovan is starting to pull away from the Reeds in their Volkswagen Golf there in 3rd position. So John LaMaster was leading by 1.7 seconds after 1 lap. It's not that much more at the end of 2 racing laps of the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit. No, it's still 1.7 seconds, and slightly quicker would Stuart Donovan in that Toyota Celica. The fastest lap of the race at 1 minute 47.0, which is very close to the lap he did in qualifying, which is impressive on a pretty heavy fuel tank at this stage of the race. So they head on to lap 3. Paddock Hill Bend's getting very busy because it's 3 abreast. A little Mazda MX-5 getting in between a Renault Clio and a Mini Cooper there, and they do get through Paddock Hill Bend, which I wasn't sure if that would be the case at one point.
Stuart Donovan ran very wide just coming out of Druid, so I think that just sort of hampered his progress slightly as he went downhill in towards the braking area for Graham Hill Bend. So we'll see as to what that has done for the gap first to second. We also need to keep an eye on what's going on with George Jack Wright's Volkswagen Golf and how they're carving their way up through the order. So the number 46 car, remember, started in 45th position after 2 laps of racing. It is now up into 24th position, so it has made remarkable progress through the order. Well, started 45th, we say. There were a few other cars missing on the grid, so I think you could ultimately say they probably started 41st, 42nd, something like that. But either way, impressive progress in the early stages. But now that I've mentioned that, of course, we know what the golf's been like. I'll put the commentator's curse on it.
The Brian Richardson Porsche that didn't get away well didn't complete one lap, did it? So it looks like Brian Richardson has had to retire his Porsche Boxster, which is a shame, but he completes the cars in one bit, physically at least, if it's not mechanically. So lap number 3 is about to be completed. John Lemaster's lead is coming down. This is a great drive by Stuart Donovan in that Toyota Celica. The Se7en Motorsports car is no longer 1.7 seconds behind the Lotus Elise of John Lemaster, and he completes 3 laps with a leading gap of just 0.8 of a second, because Stuart Donovan's gone quicker than he went in qualifying this morning with a lap time of 1 minute 46.598. So a real battle on for the lead now as we start the 4th lap. In 3rd position continues to be the Alex and Daniel Reed Volkswagen Golf. In 4th position is Jeremy Evans. In 5th position is Freddie Hewitt at the end of 3 laps of racing. But Freddie Hewitt is involved in quite a close battle as well, because that BMW, the Double Track Motorsport car, is just behind him. So that's another battle to watch out on the circuits. The race leaders head out of Surtees and onto the Grand Prix Loom for the 4th time in this 45-minute race.
Yes, so Stuart Donovan looking to try and close in onto John Lemaster, the race leader. Stuart Donovan has had a 2nd place already so far this year. That was at the opening round at Silverstone on the national circuit. He lost out to the tune of just 0.3 of a second on that occasion, so he'll be desperate to see whether he can get himself onto the top step of the podium for the first time so far this championship season. He's doing everything right about it at this stage, because, say, John Lemaster at the wheel of the Lotus was losing time to Stuart Donovan, but I think John Lemaster had a bit in reserve, because it looks as though this time through he has responded to the fact that the gap was closing up between himself and the Toyota behind, and it looks as though he has stretched the advantage to a larger degree this time. And let's have a quick look as they come up towards Clearways now and see whether he has managed to improve the amount of daylight. Yes, without question, the amount of daylight has improved between himself and the pack behind. However, we are going to be going safety car, because there's an incident out there somewhere on track, and that is going to bring the race to a controlled status, I'm afraid to say, with 37 minutes of the race remaining.
Yeah, that's right. There's a car. I think there's a car that's gone on the inside of Sterling's on the exit of the corner. We were talking about that earlier, weren't we? Where that's a possibility to go out over the curves.
Not easy to spot which one it is either from that angle, is it? That is a Lotus. That looks like a Lotus, and I think that is Steve Summers. I think it's the number 4 Lotus. Just looking at the colour of it.
Come through the end of the lap.
Did he?
Yeah. It's very hard to tell from the...
Very hard to tell from that, but it looks Lotusy.
444 hasn't come through. That's the
Mazda MX-5. Yeah, it could be that. Maybe it is. It's just so difficult to tell. You zoom in and it becomes pixelated, so it's so difficult to tell. Yeah, we'll go Mazda then, will we?
So that's potentially the car of Andy and Jay Coombs that hasn't come through at the end of 3 laps.
Which ended up in the gravel trap in qualifying, didn't it? With the BMW Z4.
Yeah, could have been, yeah. We had a few MX-5s off over the course of today.
So it's number 444 then, we think, that's had the problem. And hopefully, as it's switched from one side of the circuit to the other, it hasn't sort of banged the barriers too much. So, yeah, that is with that car. It sort of backed itself into the barriers by the look of things, Josh, hasn't it? So it might be in the need of some sort of recovery unit to get there, for which, if that's the case, then we're going to have to send that recovery unit from the little gap that exists somewhere along the Derek Minter Straight, I would imagine, is where they'll bring the recovery unit from. And shouldn't take too long to get it there. Hopefully the car isn't too badly damaged, because ideally what we don't want is to be under safety car when the pit window opens. We had that earlier.
I suspect that could happen again, couldn't it, with 6 minutes to go till the pit window opens. Here comes the Snatch Tractors. I guess that's come from Sheen Curve. There might be one at Sterling's. And so that will head in that direction. Not quite sure where it'll actually put the car that's gone off. the remainder of the race, and now it's a job of the telehandler to get back to where it's going to stay for hopefully the remainder of the race. But that does mean we will need one further lap behind the safety car. Hopefully that means the safety car can come in on the next lap, and then hopefully that means everybody won't pit at the same time, which will make the pit lane a little bit safer for everybody down there.
Yep, so telehandler leaving the scene, the last few marshals just making sure that they're back in their respective positions behind the Armco barriers and out of harm's way. Doesn't look as though there's a great deal, if any, damage to the barriers from where that Mazda went off, but yeah, it's now been removed from the left hand side of the circuit on the edge of Stirling to the right hand side of the circuit after the gravel trap has ended. So looks like we are good to go racing at the end of this lap. But at the end of this lap, as Josh suggested, the pit window will be open. It's not quite open as yet, so I think even the tail end of the train can't come in this time. If you've been at the tail end of the train in another 30 seconds going by, God, it'd be worth diving into the pit lane, wouldn't it? But everybody's on the same page of the book, I suppose. Nobody's going to lose or gain anything out of this. The only cars that may lose out possibly are the cars that choose either not to pit this lap or otherwise. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. If pit window's about to open and we're about to come off safety car, I'd just crack on, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I think so, especially really anywhere in the field that should work out, shouldn't it? Because it's sort of a normal green zone. And if you want to be under the safety car, you don't know, there might be enough one to come before the pit window is over. So I suspect cars will stay out. Assuming you know, of course, you're further back, you might not know the safety car's coming in, might you? Although if everybody's speeding up in front of you, might want to give you an idea, but you don't know for sure. You won't see the safety cars pulled in because there's 31 cars in front of you.
Yeah, you can't see the lights, it's as simple as that, absolutely. Each car sort of gets its nose out behind the next car to see if the safety car lights are off, and that's the way it works. And when you're at the back of the queue, you simply do not know. You have to try and almost gauge the fact that everybody's moving that little bit quicker. So yes, we possibly are going safety car, but I've done it a few times myself. You think it's coming in and it doesn't, but it will come in this time. In comes the safety car. John Lemaster gets his foot down, no overtaking until the start finish line. So Stuart Donovan finds himself straight away under pressure again from the Alex and Daniel Reed Volkswagen Golf that sits there in third place. Is he going to try anything? No, not quite. We've also got Sam McKee trying to make a little bit of progress as he is looking to try and get himself back inside the top 6 at the wheel of the number 36 BMW. The door is open. Can he sneak the Beamer through and ahead of the Finsport car? No, not quite. So sits back behind again, and for the moment has to be content with sitting just outside of the top 6. But John Lemaster getting away again. We've got the Toyota Celica of Stuart Donovan resuming its battle once more with the Volkswagen Golf of the Reed family.
A couple of cars did decide to pit. The first of those was Freddie Hewitt, who was quite high up the order. And yeah, 5 cars I think have pitted. There are still cars making their way to the green flag. So quite spread out in the field on this restart. The race leader, John Lemaster, turns his way in towards Hawthorne for the 8th time of this race, with Stuart Donovan and the Reed still contesting that battle for that position for 2nd place. The battle you noticed between the Finsport car and the McKee machine, they were battling for the Class C lead, so that's I'm reading the wrong line. No, they weren't battling for class positions. It's the car in front of the Finsport car, isn't it? That's the Class C leader, the Dubshack Motorsport BMW. So ignore that point. But the race leaders turn their way then down towards Stirling's and then accelerate up towards Clearways, where again, just like on the original start, John Lemaster's made a good effort in his Lotus Elise 135R, and he will lead at the end of 8 laps. And in this leading group, everybody's staying out on the circuit, not choosing to make their pit stop. The lead gap is 1.3 seconds because John Lemaster has just done the fastest lap of the race at 1 minute 45.306, which is quicker by 7/10 of a second than he did in qualifying this morning. So despite having lots of fuel in the cars, the drivers out there are going quicker without the traffic in race conditions. Down into Graham Bend then for the Lotus driver.
Those cars that stopped on the previous lap are now all working their way back out again. So Freddie Hewitt in the grey Mini heads out of pit lane. Alex Tate at the wheel of the Finsport prepared Ford Fiesta heads out of the pit lane as the squabbles on track continue. So the race leading pack already threading their way out of the left-hander at Surtees and starting to build the momentum, build the speed again through Pilgrim's Drop. John Lemaster looking to try and evermore pull away in the lead of the race. He was 1.3 seconds up the road from the rest of the pack as they came over the start-finish line last time through. Stuart Donovan is sticking with the task in hand, though, of trying to keep him as honest as he possibly can. We've got the Volkswagen Golf sitting there in third place. Now, I don't think that they are pulling away at all from the Semprini Racing Honda Civic in the hands of Jeremy Evans, who is surely on for a good result. Semprini Racing had a difficult weekend at Cadwell Park, so it'd be great to see them back on an overall podium.
Yeah, that's right, he's right. In that battle, it was catching, it would seem, on this the ninth lap of the race. So Jeremy Evans getting on terms with the Volkswagen Golf. So you've got a good hot hatch battle there between the Golf and the Civic, and they are nose to tail, and now they're almost alongside one another because Jeremy Evans braked really late in towards Clearway, but he wasn't quite able to get up alongside that EST Performance Volkswagen Golf, and perhaps Paddock Kilben might be another opportunity for Jeremy Evans, who looks to the outside line into Paddock Kilben, but no way through on that line. But on the exit of the corner, he's got a good run on the way up towards Druitt. He found the inside line to work with, and he goes through to Jeremy Evans, does get himself up into third position, but then slides a little bit wide. So a good battle this, Mark. Yeah,
fantastic battle. Jeremy Evans looks as though he's just got the job done, and then the next minute, firing up the inside, comes the Alex and Daniel Reed Volkswagen Golf to take the place back, but then loses momentum coming out of the corner. So what happens? Jeremy Evans carves his way back through again. So they've swapped, and they've swapped back already. And of course, now that they're squabbling away, it's allowing the number 41 BMW that Michael Rawlings shares with David Shevchevsky to begin to close in as well. So that's the two Class B cars fighting for third and fourth, getting caught by the Class C leading car at the moment. And the number 41 BMW of Michael Rawlings and David Shevchevsky can't really afford to get involved in that battle, because he'll want to make sure that he continues to maintain what is at the moment a reasonably comfortable lead in Class C. But of course, we've got all of these cars that need to come in and pit at some point. There's hardly anybody that's dived for the pit lane. If you're inside the top 30, you are not really having done anything other than dive into the pit lane. I think there's only one car that's just exited the pit lane now that's inside the top 30 that has pitted, and that's Mick President at the wheel of his Lotus, who is in the pit lane somewhere.
Okay, so that battle looking pretty close again as they went down into Stirling's, the battle for third position. And it is the Golf, is it, back in front? So, no, it's the Civic, isn't it? It's the Jeremy Evans Civic that's got back in front as they come down towards Clearways. But now that BMW does get involved, and the Rawlings and Zakrzewski cars gets alongside the Reeds, but I don't think is able to go through as they go into Paddock Kilben. But again, the Golf not so quick on the exit of Paddock Kilben, and that allows the Dubshack Motorsport BMW to try and get alongside the EST Performance Golf. But then there's another car that is getting involved in this battle, and that is the Finsport Renault Clio of Richard Clark and Stephen Rosario. And again, he's not quite able to make the move done. So this is all allowing Jeremy Evans to pull away.
It is, isn't it? Yeah, and it's also holding up the Class C leading car of Michael Rawlings and David Shevchevsky, who I think are desperate to try and work their way through it ahead of the Volkswagen Golf. But there's no reason why Daniel Reed should let that car go through, because they are fighting for fourth and fifth positions respectively. A few more cars have dived for the pit lane this time through, so into the pit lane comes Steve Summers at the wheel of his Lotus. We've also got the number 69 Honda in, which is David Slater and Aaron Harding, and several others also diving for the pit lane this time through. What's going on for the squabble between those two? Have we got the Volkswagen Golf still hanging on to the place? Up towards Westfield they'll go. Yes, good job being done, but a very wide Volkswagen Golf it is to keep that Beamer behind.
Yeah, I think the BMW was on the grass. They were just lapping a car coming out of Hawthorns. Now there's contact, isn't there? And there's a car heading not quite into the Armco barrier on the exit of Sheen Curve. And we'll have to wait and see which car doesn't appear in that battle as they come down in towards Clearways on this lap. And on this lap, is that John Lemaster for the pit lane?
It is, yeah.
So the race leader has pitted, so Stuart Donovan takes up that spot. Jeremy Evans is there in second position. And
the Golf drives to the pit lane as well, I think.
Okay, so the BMW's still there, isn't it? The Rawlings and Zakrzewski car. So which car was it that had a spin up there at Sheen Curve?
think it was Richard Clark, was it? Possibly with Stephen Rosario, because that was a slow lap time that was put in by that car, sort of a 1:56. Possibly. The other possibility I would offer up would be someone like Freddie Hewitt, who looked as though his was a great car, but no, Freddie's lap time suggests that he was okay. So yeah, it might have been the Finsport Clio possibly.
Yeah, did a good job not to have an accident and then not actually to lose too much time, and that Finsport Clio is now under pressure from Sam McKee. So actually they've got back past Sam McKee, haven't they, at the start of this lap, for what is 4th position on the road at this stage, with some of the drivers who were doing well having pitted. I wonder how it's going to work out for Freddie Hewitt, because he got out of that battle, didn't he, early on by making his pit stop. Whether the early pit stop will work out for him, we will wait and see. John LeMaster, his pit stop still ongoing down there at the moment, with just over 5 minutes of the pit window to go. About half the car still to pit.
I think it could be quite good for Freddie Hewitt, A, because he's a quick young man, but also his pit stop time was 2 minutes and 1 second, so he absolutely was as fine as he really ought to be. So it was 2 minutes 1 second, .035 from pit in to pit out, whereas other cars we're sort of seeing in the 2 minute 6s and 7s, and some of them even in the sort of 2 minute 10s and into the teens as well. So it was a good pit stop from Freddie Hewitt. We'll have to see as to where he cycles back through once we've got everybody through this pit stop. So over the start finish line comes our race leader. It is Stuart Donovan in the Toyota Celica that leads the way at this stage, and the gap between himself and the car in second place is going to be around about some 5.6 seconds at the moment, because it is Jeremy Evans that's there in second place. The car that was running in third dives to the pit lane, and that's number 41 BMW that Michael Rawlings shares with David Szybczewski there in the pit lane.
Okay, and John LeMaster's been working his way down the pit lane and goes out, but his pit stop is 2 minutes 14. So for John LeMaster, that's not great news, and he's at him behind Freddie Hewitt, who made his pit stop earlier on in the race in the Mini Cooper, quite possibly. So that's the Mini just ahead. So Freddie Hewitt is the first of the pit stoppers, even ahead of John LeMaster after that slow pit stop, much longer than what the Mini had done.
Yeah, so not quite sure why John LeMaster's was that slow. There's no reason. It's not as though you've got to get out of the car and close the door and get back in or anything. You just sit there and wait for the clock to tick away. Yes, an adjustment of tyre pressures. Yes, the opportunity to grab some water, but that was a slow old stop from John LeMaster. So that is going to compromise his efforts for the remainder of the race. The car that had that spin up at Sheen Curve not so long ago is running in the top 3 at the moment. Yes, somewhat out of kilter because others around it have pitted, but Richard Clark and Stephen Rosario in the 166 Clio still doing a good job in third place. Number 36, the black or dark blue BMW of Sam McKee now moves up to 4th. Up to 5th comes 97, which is Dave Connell's dark blue and white Mazda, and up inside the top 6 now comes the red Mini in the hands of Ben Taylor. That's kind of 806.
Race leader Stuart Donovan works lap number 13 in his Toyota Celica. See if he decides to pit in this time. He does, so Stuart Donovan makes his way down the pit lane in the Se7en Motorsport Toyota Celica. Also into the pit lane comes the car that was running in second position, the Semprini Racing Honda Civic, driven by Jeremy Evans. So the 2 leading cars into what is a slightly busier pit lane, but not too bad. Also into the pits has come the number 166 Finsport Renault Clio of Richard Clark and Stephen Rosario, which means Sam McKee takes the lead of the race in the McKee Motorsport BMW 328i. And so far, he's the only driver who hasn't decided to pit on this lap. He'll have to do on the next lap, though, I'd suggest, with just 3 minutes till the pit window closes. Yeah,
he's just coming down in towards Graham Hill Bend now at the wheel of that BMW E36, so flashes his way in and out of Graham Hill Bend very quickly indeed. Sam McKee looking to try and press on with the task in hand. Well, the car of Sam McKee has, so far when he's driven solo, not finished inside the top 6 in any of the outings so far over the course of this season. We have seen Sam finish 4th in a Trackday Trophy race, but that was when he was sharing the car at Silverstone and finished 4th overall. But for Sam McKee, he is tasked with getting into the pit lane and getting back out. I think by the time he's back out, I would say he's probably going to be something like 6th or 7th position potentially. There's another car that hasn't pitted as yet though. That's the number 6 car of Colin Wells. His Mazda is now up into 2nd place, but that is still as yet to pit. And the car that is in 3rd place, which is Craig Horvath at the wheel of his slightly older Honda Integra DC2, is now up into 3rd position. But those are the 3 cars out of everybody that's still circulating that have not pitted.
Freddie Hewitt was 0.2 of a second ahead of John LeMaster as they started the lap. They were the leading stoppers who didn't pit on that particular lap. We'll see if Stuart Donovan can come out ahead. There's one car that's making its way into the back entry, into the pit lane and into retirement. Sam McKee, he's the leader of the race. He's now coming into the pit lane, and therefore the next car through is John LeMaster, now ahead of Freddie Hewitt. So, but out to the pit lane, Mark.
That's gone Stuart Donovan. It was a 2 minutes and 3 second lap from him, or 2 minutes and 3 second pit stop from him. So that really helps Stuart Donovan. Who was that absolutely nailed it? It was the number 37 car of Jeremy Evans. Time spent in the pit lane area, 2 minutes, 0 seconds, 0.458. They were within half a second of the minimum pit stop time. So that has really helped the number 37 Semprini Racing Honda. So that is now to second in the race. So the Toyota leads, the Honda is second, and John LeMaster, all because of that slow pit stop, when it looked as though he got everything in hand, all of a sudden finds himself in third, and still with daylight to try and close in on the pair of cars that lie ahead.
Yeah, that's right. So there's a good chase going on now for the race win, isn't there? Because John LeMaster should be a little bit quicker. He has been by about a second in the race.
Problems in the pit stop. It looks though that one's too short as far as I'm concerned. The number 43 car has pitted for too short a period of time. That's Trevor and Joe Hurrell in the 43 car, and they are showing as only having done one pit stop. So 1 minute and 51 seconds pit in to pit out. It's too short, so I think a penalty's coming their way.
Yeah, so that's good news for them. Well, they're running fourth, aren't they, in Class D, but that might not be the case come the official classification later on. And they'll be busy up at Clearways, involved in the race leader coming through traffic for Stuart Donovan. And we should get a gap between him and Jeremy Evans, and then a gap back to John LeMaster with 15 minutes of the race to go. So the Toyota Celica completes 14 laps, driven by Stuart Donovan, with a gap of 3.2 seconds over Jeremy Evans, and then a gap back to John LeMaster of another 3.3 seconds. So at the moment they're equal distance, with John LeMaster lapping quickly in the 1 minute 45s, trying to go after them. Fourth is Freddie Hewitt, so that early pit stop didn't work out for the driver in the Mini Cooper. And Sam McKee, it looks like, has come out the pit lane in fifth position and leading Class C, which he wasn't doing so earlier. And the race is going to be reduced by 5 minutes. We're being told we thought that might happen, so this will be a 40-minute race, which means there's actually only 9 minutes of the race to go. So yeah, Sam McKee in fifth, and then in sixth position is the Alex and Daniel Reed Volkswagen Golf that runs in sixth position. And this is because that BMW that won this year, the Dub Shack Motorsport car, hasn't come through, has it, at the end of the 14th lap?
No, not quite sure what happened to the Michael Rawlings and David Shukshevsky BMW, but that has not come through at the end of the lap. So the 2 times winning car from earlier on this season, the wins coming at Cadwell and Anglesey, has tumbled its way down through the order, only to be reasserted back into position. So clearly what's happened is the transponder stopped working on the car, so TSL have then spotted that and slotted it back in. So the car is there, it's running in fifth position overall. So class leaders at this stage, leading the race overall, leading Class B is Stuart Donovan, leading Class A third overall, but catching those ahead is John LeMaster, car number 65. Leading Class C is the car that we thought had gone missing a split second ago, which is Michael Rawlings and David Shukshevsky. They still lead Class C at this stage, and leading Class D is going to be the car of Dave Connell, number 97, which sits there in 11th position overall. Those are your class leaders.
And the overall leader, Stuart Donovan, completes another lap. 15 laps completed. That's a lap time of 1 minute 47.3. Jeremy Evans is going quicker than that, though, in second place. He's done a lap time of 1 minute 46.7 to bring the gap down to 2.6 seconds. And then in third position, John LeMaster did a slower lap of 1 minute 48.2. So he is now 4.8 seconds behind Jeremy Evans. That gap has gone out. So it's the Honda Civic of the Jeremy Evans driven car, the Semprini Racing Run car, that is the quickest of the 3 leaders at this stage of the race.
Yeah, and he's going to need to try and carve his way through and past some traffic as well. That will be the Mazda MX-5 that he sneaks through and up the inside, heading in towards the braking area for Surtees Corner. That will be the Aidan Hills and Darren Hills shared car. So we've got 7 minutes of this session still to go. The Semprini Racing Honda in the hands of Jeremy Evans, 1 minute 46.7, was 0.6 of a second quicker than Stuart Donovan could muster last time through. Now he needs to keep pushing all of the time. Remember, we have seen Jeremy Evans finish in 3rd position so far this season. That was last time out at Snetterton. We have not seen the car finish in the top 2 so far this season, and that would be a great result for them, to say. They did have a difficult weekend at Campbell Park earlier on in the season.
Up into the top 10 has come the Volkswagen Golf with George and Jack Wright. The car that started from the back of the grid, worked their way all the way up inside the top 10, and the best lap of 1 minute 47.2 is within 2 seconds of the lap time John LeMaster did earlier on in the race. There's still 6 minutes of the race to go, and Stuart Donovan turns his way through clearways, and somehow he's found lots of spare track in front of him, so no cars to lap for the next lap or so for Stuart Donovan. So he completes 16 laps, and it's a good lap of 1 minute 46.7. Jeremy Evans not so good at 1 minute 48.2, but this time a much better lap for John LeMaster. They're in 3rd position. The Lotus Elise is the lap time 1 minute 45.507, and that means he brings the gap down to Jeremy Evans to just 2 seconds.
Yeah, the difficulty is for John LeMaster, he's got a lapped car ahead of him that he wants to get through and pass, but I suspect that car is being driven by Aidan Hills, because the Pastor MX-5 seems to have come alive in the second part of the race, and Aidan Hills, I think, eventually just leaves the door open, allows John LeMaster to squeeze his way through. So now the number 65 pole sitting, remember, Lotus Elise in the hands of John LeMaster, can now look to try and close onto the coattails of the Honda Civic that lies ahead. We've got 5 minutes and 20 seconds remaining on the clock. I am guessing they have adjusted the clock by 5 minutes already, so it's not as though we're expecting checker flag with 5 minutes to go. It will be, they've already accounted for that, so in 5 minutes time we'll see the checker flag fly.
Yes, is that enough time for John LeMaster to gain 1, possibly 2 places? We shall see. I'm guessing without the traffic that might help John LeMaster out. We know there wasn't much in the way of traffic for the next lap or so, but he's not yet right on turns with Jeremy Evans. If Jeremy Evans' Honda Civic got a bit of smoke possibly coming out of it there? I'm not sure, it's hard to tell on the CCTV pictures we have in the commentary box, but it didn't look overly well, so let's see how the car looks when we get it in true vision out of the window. Well, there's Jeremy Evans ahead of John LeMaster. That gap certainly come down, but for Jeremy Evans perhaps all looks okay, Mark.
Yeah, it looks absolutely fine. Maybe it was just a little bit of dust again from where they've been running on the insides of the curves, but there's no obvious signs of anything coming from the tail end of the Honda Civic as it heads up in towards the braking area at Paddock Hill Bend. The 17 laps completed, John LeMaster getting ever closer to him. John LeMaster was the best part of 3/4 of a second quicker than the Honda, so if Jeremy Evans has anything left at all, he needs to push as hard as he can to try and hang on to the place, but he runs a little bit wide, washes out wide coming out of Druids. That allows John LeMaster to close alongside him, and he's on the outside line is John LeMaster, and he's going to go all the way round the outside at Graham Hill Bend. Fantastic stuff from the pole sitter John LeMaster. He's now back up into second place. The outside at Graham Hill Bend is not a usual overtaking place, but John LeMaster is throwing that book well and truly out of the window.
So he was 5 seconds behind Stuart Donovan at the start of the lap. He was a second quicker. Needs to be quicker than that, really, doesn't he, if he's going to catch him before the end of the race. They head out onto the Grand Prix loop for the 18th time in this race. He's still ahead as they go through Hawthorns, but Stuart Donovan has now caught some more traffic, so working their way through the traffic successfully and quickly is going to be the important factor in the remainder of the race. So still there in Dashinko, Stuart Donovan the leader, new second place man John LeMaster, and then Jeremy Evans through in 3rd.
So I think for Stuart Donovan, he's probably going to have about 5 seconds to play with and a couple of laps in which to do it. So that should be enough for him to make sure that he is able to squirt his way through for what would be his first victory of the season in the Trackday Trophy. Say he missed out by 0.3 of a second at Silverstone on the national circuit where Charlie Polk won in the end, but over the start finish line now comes Stuart Donovan, and there's enough for this lap that he's just started and one more thereafter. I said about a 5 second gap. It's 4.3 seconds from first to second place. So John LeMaster, even through that little bit of traffic he had to deal with, was still a second quicker, but now with a couple of laps to go, closing second per lap is not going to get him there, is it?
No, that's right. So Stuart Donovan's just got to keep his speed up, and there's Aidan Hills has gone off, hasn't he? That's very Aidan Hills like there at Paddock Hill Bend, but he's dug his Mazda MX-5 back out of the gravel and onto the circuit. Just done a 1 minute 48.2. That's sort of pace would have put him inside the top 10 had they not had those problems earlier on today. But he's out on the gravel and all is well there. Now for the Class C lead, just 3 seconds here between the two BMWs. Sam McKee, who just got ahead on the road of Freddie Hewitt, was lapping a bit quicker, but not enough, you'd think, on the Dubshank Motorsports similar car of Michael Rawlings and David Zakreski. So we'll see if that Class C position could change before the end of Class D. Dave Connell has a big lead in that class, so it's the overall lead and perhaps the Class C lead to watch out for on this last lap and a half. And for Stuart Donovan, he turns his way through Sheen Curve with still a good advantage over the Lotus Elise of John LeMaster that continues to try and chase. But so far, Stuart Donovan doing a very good job, Mark.
Yeah, it looks like he's got everything under control for the moment, and he's only got really another 2.4332 miles to go, because when he comes over the start-finish line, there's less than a lap time to go. And Stuart Donovan also still has not just daylight between himself and the charging John LeMaster, also has a further back marker that John LeMaster will need to deal with. He should get past that on the Brabham Straight, but I don't think he's quite going to do it. So by the time they get towards Paddock Hill Bend, no, he's going to be right onto the coattails of the traffic, that he is desperate to try and work his way through. So let's just have a quick look. Up towards Druids goes Stuart Donovan. He is still trying to pick his way through the traffic. That is the Citroen Saxo that he's just about to try and move his way through and past, which is the Simon Morrison George Wright driven car. John LeMaster is now looking to try and do the same. The lead advantage down to 3 seconds, but again John LeMaster was only 0.8 of a second quicker. So, you know, had it have gone to full distance, you just never know, it would have been close.
Yeah, that's right. It's getting smaller. You mentioned at the time it was all about the pit stop, wasn't it? For John LeMaster that was the problem. And just this bit of traffic to deal with on the Grand Prix loop now for Stuart Donovan, who turns his way through the really quick right-hander at Hawthorns and then up the inside of the next car into Westfield Corner. And Stuart Donovan therefore has now put 2 cars between himself and John LeMaster. And John LeMaster has now got those 2 lap cars side by side ahead of him as they go up towards Sheen Curve. So no last lap attack is going to be possible then for the driver who started from pole position in this race. And therefore Stuart Donovan turns his way up towards Clearways for the final time. And John LeMaster was a bit closer, but not close enough, so the checkered flag is prepared. And the MSV Trackday Trophy race here at the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit goes the way of Stuart Donovan. He also wins Class B. Second goes to the Class A winner, John LeMaster. And then in 3rd position, that goes the way of Jeremy Evans in his Honda Civic. For Class C, between the 2 BMWs, well, it's the Dubshank Motorsport car that is going to take the victory in Class C. And across the line goes Michael Rawlings in the car he shares with David Zakreski. The BMW beats Sam McKee by 2.8 seconds to win the class. And then in 6th position, overall, Freddie Hewitt has the better there of the 21 car of Wayne Cockrell, who we didn't really speak about in that race very much, but he came through nice in his Toyota Celica.